the dating scene in today's age, in the 2010s and the 2020s, I mean, we're in the year 2020 now. The dating scene here in America is extremely anti-black male, specifically anti-black American male. I mean, the dating scene is horrible for black men. It's horrible. In my city, as a black man in my city, the women, it's gotten so bad for black men, a lot of times the women won't even speak back to you. And that's from all races of women. I mean, and it wasn't always like this. It wasn't like this back in the 90s. It wasn't even like this in the 2000s, really. Back in the 90s, black men had better days dating. Black men were in style in the 90s. More style, especially than now. You know, back in the 90s, black American men, we had a huge cultural influence. Probably the biggest cultural influence in the world in the 90s. We were taking over the media. We had a plethora of superstars from sports, music, TV, and movies. Plethora of iconic black American men as figures in the 90s. I mean, black men just blew up in the 90s. We had, in the 90s, hip hop became mainstream. It was everywhere. Hip hop was led by black men. Most of the rappers are black and were black men. And hip hop became so popular. People from all across the world were listening to it in the 90s. You had rappers, iconic figures like Tupac. Tupac, he was very extremely popular. I mean, in 1996, Tupac was probably, in 1996, Tupac was probably one of the most, if not the most, famous person alive. And he's a black man. People from all around the world was buying his music. His albums were selling millions. The East Coast, West Coast beef was very popular. And he was just an iconic figure. I mean, and after he died, he just blew up even more. And aside from Tupac, in the 90s, he had a lot of popular sports figures like Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan was huge. People worshiped Michael Jordan, especially in the 90s. You know, Michael Jordan accomplished his six-peat in the 90s. He won 6 rings in the 90s. He was popular all around the world. People wanted to be like Michael Jordan. People wanted to play basketball like Michael Jordan. People wanted to walk like Michael Jordan. People wanted to stick their tongue out like Michael Jordan. People wanted to chew gum like Michael Jordan. And like, people were obsessed with Michael Jordan. People wore his shoes. People used to watch all of his games. I mean, black men had a huge cultural influence in the 90s. You know, we really became the face of masculinity in the 90s with our superstars, with our rappers, with our athletes, you know. We took over football, basketball. I mean, people used to watch football every day. Every Sunday, people watch football. You know, 6'4" black wide receivers, Terrell Owens, catching 80-yard passes. You know, muscular men, muscular athletes with muscles, you know, with the hyper masculine persona, you know. And that's how we became the face of masculinity. Women would watch us on TV, listen to us in our music, watch how hip black men were. I mean, people wanted to be black men in the 90s, but especially with hip hop being popular. I mean, black men were cool, hip back in the 90s. Women would watch us on TV, like I said earlier, with Terrell Owens, 6'4" wide receivers with muscles sticking out their uniforms and stuff. Women saw that and they're attracted to that. So our masculine image in the 90s of black American men, that put us on the map, That gave us a whole lot of promotion with the women. Black men really became to be in style in the 90s. And other races of men, they seen this. They seeing all these people, especially women, thinking black men are cool. They listen to black music. They listen to Michael Jackson, Michael Jordan. They're watching Jordan on TV. They listen to Tupac. They dress in a hip hop attire. They listen to hip hop music. I mean, black men were becoming a high force in the dating scene in America due to our 90s media promotion. Black men were beginning to become cool. Other races of men, white men in particular, they saw this and they got threatened. Black men were becoming the number one choice with women due to our 90s media promotion. And white men in particular, other races of men also, they became threatened. They're like, all these girls, they're liking black guys, they listen to black music, trying to talk in slang and stuff. I mean, these white boys were thinking like, man, the black man, they became the face of masculinity. I feel threatened now. These black guys finna take my number one spot in the sexual market. That's what these white guys were thinking. And for these white guys to get their spot back as number one, they had to really go out their way to start training their women to really, really stop fucking with black men. So that's why we're seeing today the racist atmosphere in the dating game against black American men. These other races of men, they saw that media promotion that we were getting in the 90s. They saw how popular we were becoming, black men were becoming all across the world because of our athletes like Michael Jordan. Our singers like Michael Jackson, our rappers like Tupac. Will Smith acting all over TV, all over movies. We were getting a whole lot of media promotion, and black masculinity was becoming popular in the 90s. We became the face of masculinity in the 90s for the media promotion. And the white guys thought black men were going to take their number one spot in the sexual market. So that kind of made white men feel some type of way. And a white man said, this ain't going to take place. We finna train our women to not fuck with these black men. So they started training women in the 2000s, especially in the 2010s. That's when it really started to pop off, the black American male haterism from women. It really started in the 2010s, early 2010s. And these other race of men, they saw our media promotion in the 90s, they got threatened, and they really put their foot down and said, man, we finna train all these women not to fuck with black men. And they even started fucking black women, training them not to fuck with black men too. These other races of men, white men in particular. And And aside from the media promotion black men were getting in the 90s, another reason why the dating atmosphere has gotten so anti-black American male is due to immigration. America received a whole lot of immigrants in the 80s and 90s. The new wave of immigration was in the 80s and 90s. And a lot of immigrants came in from Mexico, Hispanic countries, and some other countries as well. A lot of Arabs started to move in the 80s and 90s, 2000s. And especially with the Mexican community, right? And other Latin American communities, when they moved to the United States, these people already have a racist culture in their countries, right? Before they even move here in their countries, they already hate black people, black men especially. But when these Mexicans or Hispanics, in particular, when they move to the United States, that racism that they already had, that anti-black male racist culture that they already have in Latin America, get fused in with American racism against black men. So it's like a double whammy. These immigrants from Mexico, they already have an anti-black male culture back home where they hate black men. And when they move to America, that Latin American racism gets doubled up with the American anti-black American male racism. So that's just a double whammy. So when these immigrants moved to the United States in the 80s and 90s, they really train their women not to fuck with black American men. And there's a whole lot of immigrants now, and they're extremely anti-black American male. They hate black American men, a lot of these Hispanics and stuff. And their presence in America, in our society that black men live in, they're making it even more anti-black male for us. You know, in my city, it's a whole lot of immigrants, a lot of Mexican immigrants, a lot of Polish immigrants that moved here in the 80s and 90s, and they're extremely anti-black male, man. These women won't even speak to you. A lot of these women won't even look you in the eye. I mean, I work with Hispanic women. I work with Hispanics. They're extremely anti-black American male. And these immigrants are one of the main reasons why the dating scene is becoming anti-black American male. I mean, these immigrants from Mexico, Mexicans, not even the immigrants only from Mexico, the first generation Mexicans, second generation Mexicans that are born in the United States, a lot of these Mexican men in America, you know, they come from racist culture, right? They hate black men, and a lot of these Mexican men, they fuck and mess with black women, and they spread the anti-black male racism to black women. These immigrant groups, these white men do too, you know. And they train our women to like really oppose us.